Supervisor.
The first thing I'd like to ask you is, this is a 135,000 square foot facility with 15,000 square feet for office space and mezzanine, and 120,000 square feet for manufacturing and production. What are you producing?
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, County Administrator. So we are manufacturing very high-tech, high-altitude balloons, as well as the spacecraft that fly under them. These balloons are used, as I mentioned, for a variety of business applications. So these applications are, at the moment, we are already flying with NASA, and we have already flown for Northrop Grumman, universities, and others. It is core technology to our company in order to be able to expand globally, so that we can, in fact, have these satellites that can provide communications for first responders and the other applications that I mentioned.
How many balloons are you projecting you're going to produce in the first year?
Oh, in our first year. So in our first year, it'll be tens of balloons. By the third or fourth year, we're talking about hundreds, probably thousands of balloons.
And what is the market for these balloons? Who are you going to be selling them to? Or is it every time you go up, does the balloon get destroyed? How does this work?
Yes, exactly. Maybe you would like to talk about that.
Sure. The balloons are used a single time, so per flight we make another balloon. The markets range from high-altitude science. There is a very strong market building to essentially use balloons as surrogate satellites. There's a lot of concern among the Department of Defense that if satellites are able to be used or removed from service by adversaries, we won't have an alternative to those satellites for communications for supporting our troops. So they act as a communication relay, remote sensing relay. We're actively in discussions supporting troops in the canyons of Afghanistan, where UAVs are unable to get proper communications into them. So there's a lot of very direct, immediate need support that balloons of the type that we're manufacturing here can support our troops, quite frankly.
Okay, and the one thing that I noted in the background material, no pro forma financial statements, which kind of necessary. Do you have those available? What are your projections, the financial projections, the income, the profit, etc.?
We do, of course, have financial data, yes.
And is there any reason that I didn't get a copy of them as a voting member of this board? I just got this documentation on Friday at noon.
I think that's proprietary information, Supervisor.
The financials, and you're asking taxpayers to invest in the money financials
Did you wish
seriously?
to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, so the financials of the company are proprietary information. Happy to have a conversation with you after the meeting if you would like, so that we could bring you up to speed on the projections and the forecast for the company.
That would have been nice before the vote. Have you got FAA on your vehicle? I know the county is on the hook to get the FAA approval for the launch pad, and you're getting it for your vehicle. Do you have that at this time?
Yep. Madam Chairwoman, Gwinnett County Supervisors, Administrator, we currently fly with the FAA, completely coordinated with them. We have all of the paperwork, excuse me, and permissions we need to fly unmanned flights. We have also flown manned flights under similar agreements with the FAA. The licensing of the launch pad is a process that Worldview is responsible for, and we'll obviously be working with the owners of the launch pad to make that happen. We've had preliminary meetings. I've had meetings in DC with the FAA headquarters, run through all of the operations. We've been working with the FAA since 2011 on our generic operations. We explained to them how those would be done here. We then had a meeting with essentially all of the stakeholders, the Air National Guard, the airport, the county, and the city, and went through our concept of operations. There were lots of questions for the FAA about our ability to get this site license, and they didn't see any problems. In fact, the FAA is quite excited about Tucson because we have an excellent radar and separation services here. So talking with the FAA, they think the spot that's been chosen is probably the best in the country. They're very excited about being able to have a balloon-based space flight out of Tucson.
Well, congratulations.
You're doing tourism, spaceflight tourism. First of all, it's 100,000 feet, correct? That isn't actually into space. That's up to, it's not in space, correct?
The definition of space has been defined several times. The FAA defines space, as far as we're concerned, as 62,000 feet, which is the altitude at which you must have a life support system in order to operate. Others define space higher. Basically what you find is that people define space to their needs. But world-use operations for human flight are regulated as a spacecraft, just like Virgin Galactic, SpaceX, and others. And that was determined by the FAA because they determined that we would have to be using the spacecraft to be above 62,000 feet. So as far as the FAA is concerned, it is space.
Do you have FAA certification to take people up in your balloons?
We have received FAA certification to take a person up in our balloon, which we did 3 times in 2014. You may remember the StratX Alan Eustace program. We are the holders of human ballooning records, having taken him 3 times, and the highest altitude being 136,000 feet, and safely returning him to his family. So we have a lot of experience and hold the records now. In fact, that hardware will be in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum because and it's actually one of the only times that the Collections Committee of the Air and Space Museum has had a unanimous decision to accept hardware because of the achievements done by the team that we have here in Tucson.
Don't forget about Pima Air and Space Museum.
What's that?
Don't forget about Pima Air and Space Museum.
So you have
Actually, Pima Air
done,
and Space Museum has a propeller manufactured by my great-grandfather for the First World War.
so you have done 3 flights?
We have done 3 flights with a person, and we've done almost 40 flights unmanned.
And where did you launch those from?
We launched the unmanned flights from several cities, some airports in this area, from Pinal Air Park, from Marana, and Benson, and Page. We've also conducted flights out of Roswell, New Mexico.
Okay, one of the things that I did is I actually pulled up the FAA requirements for getting certification on a launch pad, and they actually did a white paper on it, and it takes roughly 2.8 years, and that's the average to get a spaceport approved. They've actually done a white paper. How far into this process are you?
So the process is basically 3 phases. One is preparing your application, then the FAA's response period, and then the actual operational certification. The preparation of the application goes parallel with our operating parallel. So as we develop operations, we develop the application. That's sort of a 4 to 6 month process. The FAA has a 6-month requirement to respond, and then it's a few months after that. So yes, the process has taken years in many cases because there wasn't a deadline and they were developing, but if you look at the timelines required, the application process really is not an issue. It's simply building the spaceport, getting operations going, and developing the overall operation.
So you haven't submitted your application yet?
No,
For the
the
spaceport.
application process has begun. We had the official kickoff meeting with the FAA stakeholders. The next process is to work with them through the application process.
Okay, so you have not yet done that. Then you, let's see, you're not wanting to talk about your financials, which makes it really difficult. Oh, $75,000 is the projected price for a space ride.
Yes, at this time that is correct.
And I read in your materials that I researched on the internet that you've already begun taking deposits on those in December 2013.
Yes, that's also correct.
And do you have a significant number of deposits?
Yes, so we have indeed started taking deposits and selling tickets. They have all been incoming. We haven't actually put in place a full sales team yet. However, we do already have, just through passive sales, people from all around the world who have purchased them. We've had families buy them. So yeah, we've got some very good response.
And you talk about the production for the balloons. What type of employees do you expect in the facility? What type of job descriptions? Because I didn't see anything like that. What type of jobs?
Right, so, yeah, a wide variety of jobs. The lion's share of them are manufacturing jobs, so that would be in manufacturing the balloons. We will have flight operators, ground operators, pilots, engineers, sales and marketing people, test engineers. What am I missing? That gives you a sense of the kind of people, very broad.
The majority will be manufacturing personnel.
Yes, the majority will be manufacturing personnel.
Okay. And I did have some questions for Mr. Huckleberry, but so I'm finished asking you the questions. I don't know if anybody wants to ask them.
Supervisor Miller. Well, I think Supervisor Elias had asked to be recognized first. Yeah, actually, he did.
We appreciate that. I'd just like to follow up. You said you have these institutional investors from Europe and the United States and that they expect a very high rate of return. When you look into your business plans, I'd like to look into your business plans for the taxpayers on behalf of the taxpayers, and we did not get that. I'm just taking your word up here. I mean, it's really nice to hear you say, yes, it's going to be great. Yes, I know it's going to be great, but I'm not seeing the data. I can't just take your word on that you're going to bring this great return on balloons, not going, just going up 100,000 feet. And, why haven't you given that data to me to analyze, to look into? I'm a finance person, so I like looking into these things. And I would give you the same, you can understand my frustration. You're asking me to vote to invest taxpayer money with no information. Go to your website. It's just, a very simple website without a whole lot of projections on what you're going to do. It looks like it was recently created, as a matter of fact. I'm just not seeing a whole lot of detail on the type of company you have, the type of information that should be out there on a website of a company that is high-tech, producing product, and where you're going in the future and what your projections are, and who is interested in investing in your company. There's no data there whatsoever on who the investors are. I just really find it very frustrating. At noon on Friday, folks, I was given the information to vote on this, and not even 5 days. And it appears, I'd like to know who knew about this for 6 to 9 months. And a contract was agreed to in December. You wrote an acceptance letter. And I'm very stunned that this board is supposed to be meeting in public meetings and voting together and analyzing this. And it appears this was all done without at least one board member knowing anything about it at all. Very frustrating. And again, if you have a list of, if you have your business plan, I'd love to look at it even right now. Do you have it with you?
Madam Chairwoman, no, I'm sorry, I do not have it with us. I would be happy to set up a meeting with you, though.
Thank you.
Supervisor Elias? Okay. Supervisor Carroll, did you know?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Supervisor.
just a little bit of a point of clarification, and I'd like Mr. Huckleberry to respond. Mr. Huckleberry, I believe we've had a number of economic development opportunities that this board has voted on over the last 3 years to be inclusive of all colleagues here on the stage today. And I believe in many of those cases, the negotiations were done in a very similar manner with all economic development entities in the state and in the region. Could you please elaborate, was this done any different than before? And I believe at least Home Goods, I think, got a unanimous vote. So could you share that with me? Maybe I'm just mistaken.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board. We, in actually talking to firms who want to relocate here or expand here, are typically under a non-disclosure agreement, which simply says that we're competing with others, and that what we do is really in that firm's interest to ensure that where they're either moving from doesn't understand or doesn't cause chaos, or that the fact that their business plan that they have, that they're actually advancing, is not disclosed to their competitors. And so this is no different than every economic development activity we undertake. It goes by all code names, and this particular code name is Project Curvature. I will talk later today with Project Coed, and so those are very similar activities that are occurring on a regular basis.
Madam Chair, Mr. Huckleberry, just, and I heard you say it already, but I wanted in a simple yes or no answer so that it's very clear. Was this project conducted in any different manner than every single economic development project that has come before this board for the last 3 years?
Madam Chair, members of the board, no, it was not.
Thank you.
Mr. Huckleberry, just as a follow-up, in previous economic development opportunities we have accepted, what guarantee do we have that there will be performance? Is with Worldview, is there some guarantee in the contract we will be, should we move forward with, is there some guarantee that the county has protection?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the property remains the county's as well as the building is the county's until a purchase agreement is executed by Worldview, and they're obligated to make rent payments and basically pay all operating expenses associated with the facility itself. And should they default at any time, we simply get all the property back, including any rent they would have paid that paid down the principal or interest on the debt. So that's our quote guarantee, that we would then take the property back and remarket it to a similar or different manufacturer of we'll say, aerospace technology.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor.
I had some questions for Mr. Huckleberry. Is it appropriate at this time?
Well, I think, yes, he had the floor, and then we'll proceed to you. Supervisor Bureau.
Madam Chair. First off, I want to welcome both of you. I hope to change the tone here and say thank you for being here. Obviously, we know your success in Paragon Ventures. I also know your success and your reputation because I've done some research on you from the time that I found out that you were the company that was codenamed Project Curvature. The important thing is your track record speaks for itself, and I'm glad you're here. You're space pioneers. I'm grateful for your attendance at today's meeting. You're used to the scouring, I heard you say earlier, so I just want to say on behalf of the taxpayers, it's important for us to try to collaborate with you at this point, this public hearing. The track record for our economic development team over the past few years has been, I think, phenomenal with Accelerate, Home Goods, other companies that are currently in our pipeline. We realize that your execution of this contract goes back to your investors and your board of directors. Can you, your local board of directors and other members, are there, I know you have some people representing you like Alex Rodriguez and others from Pima County, but all of these jobs will be mostly homegrown in Pima County as your other parallel ventures. What was the percentage of imported workers compared to the ones you grew and developed right here in Pima County, and how can we help if this is the case?
Madam Chair, members of the board, County Administrator. So with our jobs, the future jobs we anticipate will be predominantly from the local area. There are good manufacturing jobs that I think we have a community that is very well suited to supply those employees to us. I will say that in areas where we have struggled a little, as in the engineering jobs, we do have to import some of those jobs, but we do expect that the lion's share of our employees will come from right here.
Thank you, and once again, I appreciate you being here. I've spoken to many people this and last week. that have great confidence in what you're attempting to do. And they also reminded me that the majority of your income is going to continue to be scientific research and development, supporting the troops, as you mentioned, in places that really don't have accurate tower or ability to catch radar. So thank you again. I'm grateful that you're here. I hope you have great success in the future.
Thank you. Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, these questions are for Mr. Huckleberry. On page 9 of your January 19th memo, I don't know if you want to turn to that. You discuss the Swayman Associates contract and the Barker Morrissey, that you said that they've been working on this for months. And then you have a statement in there that the county will now pay all fees estimated at approximately $1 million, as well as non-governmental utility extensions estimated at $700,000. Is that in addition to the $15 million?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, that is included within the $14.5 million of the purchase.
Okay. And so that's one. The other question I have was regarding the emergency procurement procedures that you're invoking to sole source this. Because you said the compliance with the statutes is impracticable. How so?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Worldview needs to be operational in the new facility November of 16. That is 10 months from now, and therefore it required an accelerated design schedule.
And why is it that they have to be operational by November of 2016? What type of emergency are we invoking here?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, probably they could answer that better, but I think they have actual contracts that they must deliver on.
Is that correct? You have actual contracts?
Yes, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry. We have actual contracts to fulfill. We also have a projection of contracts that we need to be prepared to fill. This was also part of the overall state-to-state competition. Other states put significant effort into designing buildings in part of their proposal and timelines for those buildings' completion. So it was a very significant part of the competitive package that allowed us to study.
So you need that timeline in order to be successful.
Is this for balloon production?
Yes.
You have a bunch of balloons on orders for your
It's
town?
primarily balloon production, also the hardware that the balloons carry, communication and remote sensing packages are also integrated in that facility.
That's the real payload.
Yes.
Yes.
But you're not producing that there at the facility, the payloads, you're producing balloons, correct?
Madam Chairwoman, Board of Supervisors, Administrator Berry, we're producing both the balloons and the payloads. The payloads that control the balloon, that we communicate with the balloon. We have actually begun to talk with other organizations in Tucson, Raytheon, Arizona Optical, about also producing aspects of the payloads, communication systems. Our intention is to source the entire payload insofar as possible locally. In fact, we have more meetings with Raytheon coming in very soon. We've had several successful meetings with here and meetings with them and customers in DC. So this is a very vibrant opportunity to co-locate these two organizations and actually have Raytheon create aspects of the payloads along with us. So it's both is occurring, and part of the facilities allowing for that final integration and test of the payload before we fly it from the launch pad here at Spaceport Tucson.
Thank you.
Okay. The one thing I'd like to note, and for the audience to understand, in year 19, this company has the ability to purchase this facility from the county for $10. Is that correct? There's a purchase agreement option in year 19.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, if you look at the option closely, it goes from 6 months into year 9 to 17.
Right.
And then that expires. The second option was really to basically buy but give us notice, and 6 months ahead to actually purchase it for $10, which would be the term of the 20 years. But at that point in time, they had paid $23.5 million in rent.
But that's paying us back for the loan that we're taking out to purchase, to build this facility, correct? That 23 million.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, the aggregate principal and interest on the loan is $20.3 million. The payback on the rent is $23.5 million.
That's if we get 4% on the COPS. The assumption is 4% on the COPS.
Yes, Madam Chair, the assumption is 4%. I guess the market is below that today.
And another question I have for you, what is the asset that we're using to secure these COPS?
It is the land itself or other county facilities.
Okay, so you haven't identified the county facilities because we've mortgaged our parking garages, the courthouse, the jail. What facilities? You haven't even identified what facilities we're going to mortgage.
We've identified it. We'll have a package of financing coming to the board in 2 meetings.
Okay. All right. I got this on Friday, less than 5 days, and I'd like to quote Supervisor Bronson being very upset in the paper about the Reed to horse racing contract only having 5 days to review. I think you can understand my frustration. If you're going to companies to speak to them, they have a lot more than 5 days. Whether this is anything to do with you, it's a communication issue within the county, obviously. Approving this contract today without performing the due diligence that the voters deserve, and ensuring we're not in violation of the gift clause, which I think we are, and procurement statutes. I don't know how we can invoke an emergency, but we are. I just have to say, the taxpayers of Pima County just spoke loudly and clearly. They rejected the economic development portion of the Sonoran Corridor, along with taxpayer-funded tech parks. By 60% voted no. This was just 2 months ago. They rejected tourism by an even higher rate, and this is tourism. This was 190,000 voters in this community. This is disregarding the will of the voters, telling them you have no respect for their wishes, and ramming it down their throats. Pima County taxpayers deserve better. Picking winners and losers will deter private sector investment in Pima County. Why would a private sector investor come in here and risk not knowing who the next winner will be? It could be their competition. One of the things people need to know as well is this company is already here, located at the airport in Pima County, and I assume you're paying rent at your existing facility. Funding a startup business by providing this building for which they have the option of purchasing for $10 is competing with the private sector. The private sector has over 4 million vacant space of industrial space here in Pima County already. It'll discourage private investors and developers from coming here. We're setting ourselves up to be a taxpayer-funded economy, and maybe people are good with that. Imposing this level of risk, because I haven't seen anything, and I certainly read the report of the company out of Phoenix that had all kinds of disclaimers and said they couldn't even be sued over any of the information that they provided. They were very nervous about this report, obviously. New Mexico Spaceport, what I researched on it, it's a $250 million failure. There's a legislator actually putting up a legislation to try to put it up for sale. It's empty. X-Core in Texas, Midland, Texas, $10 million investment. That one isn't off the ground. We're not even funding our core services like roads and paying our sheriff's deputies the step increases they were promised when they were hired. Yet we're choosing to invest borrowed monies. Taxpayers are mortgaging their assets to borrow this money in an extremely risky enterprise with individuals at the helm who were part of the biosphere experiment, which failed. The taxpayers of this community deserve better. They deserve to be listened to. And I'm certain the taxpayers won't forget what happens here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Carroll.
Supervisor Carroll,
Aye.
Supervisor Elias, Supervisor Miller,
No.
Supervisor Valadez,
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Proceed.
Madam Chair, today's vote, we've heard a lot in the discussion that we've heard, and I think we need to ask ourselves, the community, could we have benefited had we gotten the Tesla battery mega factory? Yes or no? Were we upset when we lost the IBM plant and jobs? Yes or no? Looking back more recently, looking at the line that was sent to Huntsville from Raytheon, were those jobs that we could have used? Yes or no? You know, when I was a student at the University of Arizona in the College of Engineering, as most of you know, I have a degree in engineering. I interned at IBM, and I saw how many jobs were there. But more importantly, I also saw the alternatives and the options. And I will tell you that one of the things that has scared me, and I've been very public about my concern, as has been several members of this board, is the loss that we as a community continue to experience from our young people. Our young people that go to our schools, our community colleges, our universities, and get these degrees, the very people that will keep our community vibrant, sustainable, and going in a very positive and forward direction. And those young people are leaving. And you ask yourself, why are they leaving? They're leaving because, frankly, as an engineer, I will tell you that if I didn't want to go to work for Raytheon, where was I going to go? There wasn't any diversity. There weren't any other companies. But you know what? I had alternatives because I had a degree in engineering. You know, part of what I've stated before is I think that is a failure in our past leadership. That we didn't say, look, this is wrong. This is not where we want to go. Today, this board sits here and says, yes, you are right. That is not where we want to go. There's a saying that defines insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You know what? This board is not going to do the same things because those things didn't work. We're going to take a different direction because, frankly, we need different results. And with that, Madam Chair, I vote aye.
Supervisor, thank you. And thank you for those comments. You're right. We need to invest in our future. We can't continue to say no, no, no. It's time to say yes, and with that, I vote yes. Motion carries 4-1.